Dr. Bird, you became what many mothers will love, a Jewish doctor. But you are not Jewish. So what do you think your mother will think about what you became?
Well, my mother would have been very proud who I am as a man who created his own life, shaped his own life, as a doctor, father, but I'm not quite sure that she would be proud that I'm a Jew, because my mother was a Catholic and she was a proud Orthodox Catholic and she wanted me to become a priest. So here you see a Jewish doctor and the aspiration, the anticipation of a mother to that their son becomes a priest.
I think your father won't be also very proud because he didn't have you looking like a Jew. Am I correct?
Well, my father is far more complex because he was not only upset, he considered myself as a traitor because I converted to Judaism. And for him, the only son, the son that who should become a proud German, a tough German, became an Israeli, a Jew and an Israeli, and left him.
For him, that was something that he didn't like, that was one of their enemies, because for what I know, he was from the Nazi party. He was in the war. He was part of what we call the Holocaust. Am I correct?
Well, my father was a convinced National Socialist, a military man who believed in his fatherland and who believed in his Führer. Now, I don't defend him, but I have to understand him from the context of the time that he was living in and the context of the time that he was acting in. So yes, he was a National Socialist, and yes, he was devout follower of his Führer. But after the war, his world collapsed. He was in war prison. Anybody and everybody he was believing in was either dead or escaped Germany, and he was left alone, literally left alone, to create and shape a new life. And now in this life that he created and worked so hard to recreate, his own son demanded answers. Demanded answers to questions that he didn't want to answer.
Like what questions?
What happened? Where are you from? Why did you do what you did? Initially I believed that he was a warrior, a hero, he was a highly decorated war hero, but I wanted to know the other side, because he didn't tell me about that. He didn't tell me about the side of the murder, the horror, what I later learned as the Holocaust. He denied that. He considered that as a lie. It never happened.
Why did he consider that a lie? They knew about it, or he didn't know, or he was a part of the machinery that didn't know about it? What happened in his life that he didn't want to know? He was proud of it, no?
But first of all, every officer, senior officer, my father was a senior officer, had to know what happened. These were not isolated massacres of Jews. This was a systematic effort to wipe out an entire people in the East. A massive campaign. And that one needed the collaboration of the military and the SS. So my father was involved, and I saw pictures. I saw actually one picture of him sitting next to Heinrich Himmler in 1942 in the East, planning. There was a planning session. And when the head of the SS and senior officers met, they didn't meet for military campaigns. They met because they wanted to find out what's the best strategy to quote-unquote round up Jews. So that was his role, and he knew about that very clearly. Now, why did he deny it? This is a pathological mechanism of people that want to remove the truth out of the memory, or deny the truth, and in the end truly believe in their own lie, the lie that it never happened.
Do you think you were very young when you decided to ask questions and to question about what happened and what happened with the Jews, and to discover who were the Jews? What was in your mind in that time? Because you were to have that in that times when you were 14 years old, you see your father like a figure, a hero. What happened in your mind?
I had to contrast my father with the reality what happened. I had to contrast the stories that he told me with the reality that I found out. I had to contrast his words with the words of others. And the gap was growing larger and larger and larger. Either I would have been forced to deny the reality or live in my own dream world, or I had to find the true answers. And I decided to find the answers.
One thing is to know the true answers. You discover what happened with the Jews, what happened in the Second World War. One thing is to discover it, and the other to become a Jew. What is that decision? Because some say, oh well, I discovered it, but you became a Jew.
For me, it was not an abstract thing. It was not something I learned out of books. It was not something that I dealt with as a historical fact. I dealt with it as a very personal experience because my father was involved. And I felt personally ashamed, guilty, disgusted. And I asked myself, what can I do, how can I help to overcome that? And first of all, I needed to understand who are those Jews that my father targeted, or the generation my father targeted, to try to find out what makes them so unique that the Germans targeted them. And by approaching Jews and by learning from Jews, I literally fell in love with the Jewish culture, the language, the religion, and came closer and closer to the point where it absorbed me and they absorbed me. And I became, after 7 years of searching, I became a Jew.
For many Jews, it's very hard to say who are the Jews. To discover what is Judaism and to discover there are many ways to be a Jew. You were not a Jew, and you tried to discover why Hitler decided to kill all the Jews. Who were these Jews? What did you discover about who are the Jews?
Well, I don't know if I have all the answers, but what I personally discovered is Jews represent a people that committed itself to their faith, their culture, their religion throughout millennia, who literally sacrificed not only their country twice, but their sheer mere existence throughout history multiple times by adhering to their faith. And what makes them so strong and so unique, that I wanted to find out. And what made them unique, and what they are unique, is that they never lose faith. And that attracted me. People that never lost faith in themselves and in their culture, in their religion, in their language. They, through thick and thin, they prevailed. Very few people in human history prevailed. Very, very few. Most people disappeared, were absorbed, assimilated. Look at the Middle Eastern history, the Assyrians, Babylonians, Philistines. They disappeared. They were absorbed in the surrounding of the cultures, not the Jews.
You said that the Jews and you, like a Jew, were unique. You came from the son of a persecutor, from a Nazi, to a doctor, a Jewish doctor, the hope for every Jewish mother. What did you learn in this way? 7 years of being convinced. Now a Jew, you wrote like a Jew, you come and give a lecture to Jewish boys and yesterday to adults that go to the March of the Living. What did you learn and what do you want people to get from your speaks?
To be proud of being a Jew and not to feel a victim. It's, yes, Jews were victims throughout history, but they shouldn't feel victimized. Because when you feel victimized, you get defensive. When you get defensive, you're defending yourself without literally following your own compass, your own heart. You fight off, you're getting reactive instead of being proactive. So what I'm trying to convince others, and the message that I try to convey, is to be proactive as a Jew, to act on the principles of Judaism, on the values, the arachim, as we call them, the values, and to be proud of these values and show others that you are unique because you believe in your values. You're not better than anybody else, you're definitely not worse than anybody else, but you can live with others and can show others that there are unique human values that the Jewish people developed and created and maintained.
How do you feel being part now of the March of the Living? Going from Poland to Israel is what the march does to remember the Holocaust, but to remember also that we are alive in Israel. You are also an Israeli, you are a Jew, you have many sides in you. What do you feel now that you came to this event, 25 years of March of the Living in Mexico?
Well, first of all, I'm proud that I was able to contribute to the March of the Living, and that I continue to be able to contribute to the March of the Living. And I find it fascinating that Mexico and the Mexican Jewish community, which is so unique and so cohesive and so strong, maintains its tradition of the March of the Living for 25 years. 12% of the Mexican Jewish population participate in the March of the Living, which is a very impressive number. I think it is worthwhile to support that and to motivate others to continue doing that.
Thank you very much. Something else you would like to add? You would like to tell us something more about your past, your present, and your future?
Well, I feel optimistic about the future of the Jewish people. I don't agree with many who are pessimistic, who consider themselves as persecuted by anti-Semites, who are afraid of the future. I think the future can be bright if we are strong and standing together. And one of the dangers of Jews, paradoxically, is the fragmentation of Jews. We Jews like to fragment and form our own groups. And there's nothing wrong to belong to a certain subsection of whatever religion within Judaism. If you're Orthodox, Reform, or Conservative, specifically in the United States, it's like that. This is dangerous. Yes, you can emphasize that you are more religious or more faithful, but you're not better and you're not worse, and you need to understand that we as Jews should be together and standing together, because in Auschwitz they didn't ask the Jews at the ramp during the selection, are you conservative, Reform, or Orthodox? You were a Jew, and that made you worthwhile to die. So if we are Jews, we should stand together, and it's worthwhile to live.
Thank you very much.